Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it took a little global pandemic, to get to the place where I was hoping that we would have been after the 2008 collapse. And to be honest, where I was hoping we'd be over the last 30 years. We've had stagnant wages, we've had worsening working conditions, we've had benefits being stripped away. And I've been waiting for that moment when workers have said, you know what, I've had enough. This is the end of the line. Enough is enough. We're going to do the only thing we can do, which is fold our arms, put our hands in our pockets, and march our feet out the door. And, nowhere is it more pronounced than what we've seen happen in the restaurant and hospitality industry, where desperation wages and hostile workplaces have been the norm. Now you got folks who are saying, nope, I survived that global pandemic. I'll be damned if I'm going back to those horrible working conditions. We demand better. And as I've been saying, it's all about wages, hours, and conditions. When working people finally realize they have power, it comes back to wages, hours, and conditions. And here to share some thoughts on the most recent developments, I've asked Saru Jayaraman to come back and talk with us. She's the president of the group One Fair Wage, their website, onefairwage.com. Saru, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
So I'm looking at this moment, and I've been, for years saying there's going to be a breaking point where people just say, you know what, I've had enough. There's only so much of what somebody can eat. This is it. I'm done. I think we're here.
We are absolutely here, at least in the restaurant industry. I've never seen anything like it. It is absolutely a moment where people are saying enough is enough.
Now, is this Joe Biden's fault? Did Joe Biden cause the labor shortage in the restaurant industry? Because that's the frame I'm getting.
No, this is 150 years in coming. The wages in the restaurant industry were set at emancipation of slavery in 1865, when the restaurant industry wanted the ability to hire Black people, not pay them anything, and get a free laborer that lived on nothing but tips. And that is the origin of a sub-minimum wage for tipped workers, which became law and has resulted in the wage in the restaurant industry being $2.13 an hour for tipped workers today, slightly higher in 40 states out of 50. Their wages are still $5 or less. And it has been ridiculous for a long time. It took a pandemic for millions of workers to say enough is enough.
Now, Pennsylvania, where I'm at, is one of those states. I think it's like $2.86 an hour or something.
$2.83 in Pennsylvania.
Oh, I was giving them more. Look at that. But $2.83, you go, why? Why even bother at that rate? And you go, well, that's how they pay their taxes.
That's right. Prior to the pandemic, the answer to why bother was they got some tips. They just barely eked by with the tips. With the pandemic, a couple of things happened where light bulbs went off. First of all, 6 million restaurant workers lost their jobs, and nearly 2/3 couldn't get unemployment insurance, including in Pennsylvania, because they were told in most states that their wages were too low to qualify for benefits. So it's hilarious to hear Republicans right now saying they're sitting at home on their butts collecting UI. They couldn't even get unemployment insurance to begin with. And at that moment, last March itself, when so many millions were told by their state governments, you earn too little to get benefits, workers were like, wait a second, if the government's telling me I'm earning too little, probably I earn too little. And tips were never a reliable source of income. So people started leaving in droves last year itself. What we're seeing right now is not people leaving. It's the remnants of the fact that millions have left.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, Pennsylvania has like a limit. You have to make like $100 a week or something. And you're going, at $2.83 an hour, how many hours in a week are you going to put in to get to that threshold? And you're right. That's, to me, one of those almost criminal kind of things that happen, which is why you saw, I think, a lot of people being forced into going back to these jobs and taking some of these jobs that, we gave them a nice title. They were frontline heroes.
Essential workers.
They were essential. Right. We didn't pay them, but we gave them a nice title. And we do that a lot in this country, don't we?
Oh my God. Last year, these essential workers, they knew full well, they weren't fooled. CDC reported restaurants the most dangerous place to be. UCSF, top medical school, named restaurants the most dangerous place to work in the United States above hospitals. So restaurant workers knew this innately. They were not fools. When they didn't get benefits, you're right, thousands were forced to go back to work last summer. And what did they find? They found health risks way up and wages and tips way down. And like 70% of workers said tips are down 50 to 75%. Customer hostility is through the roof, because let's remember who was eating out last year. It wasn't people who are worried about the pandemic. It was people who are not only not willing to wear masks, but telling the servers, take off your mask so I can see how cute you are before I decide how much to tip you. And that combination of workers getting so little in tips and so much in hostility and harassment resulted, like I said, in millions walking off the job last year. So what's happening right now is not people leaving the industry. It's state governors and mayors saying, okay, restaurants, you can finally fully reopen. And restaurants trying to reopen, but finding they don't have the staff to fully reopen. And what they're trying to reopen, understaffed. The workers who remain are walking off the job saying, you don't pay me enough to do the work of 3 and 4 people. And so workers were already saying enough is enough last year. The people who are left are now saying enough is enough. And the answer, Rick, is right now at this moment, we actually only have 2 choices. Either you raise the wage or you're going to shrink the restaurant industry at least in half.
Right.
Half the date nights, half the Sunday brunches, half the shrimp and grits. Those are our 2 choices as a country.
But that's one of those things I've been saying for a long time. We need to raise the wage. We need to make those jobs living wage jobs. And for me as a union guy, it always comes back to the same thing. And people are, I'm sure, tired of hearing me say it's wages, hours, conditions. That's at the end of the day, that's what it's about. There's no such thing as a labor shortage in this country. There's a shortage of people who are willing to work in poverty conditions and desperation conditions. There aren't many people left who are desperate enough. And I'm glad for that. And I'm grateful to Joe Biden and to Donald Trump to a degree for giving people a little bit of money to get by on so that they can make that choice. Again, in a free market society, you should have the choice to participate or not. And this is, for me, this is one of the good things that's come out of this.
I think a lot of our people at least didn't even get those monies. A lot of people didn't get benefits. A lot of people didn't get the stimulus check because a lot of folks experienced not being able to access the federal dollars once they were marked as a denial through the state unemployment insurance system. Wow. So really, Rick, the choice is not stay home with some benefits or go back to a crappy job. These workers are saying anything or nothing at all is better than this job, because so many workers are telling us it costs me more in transportation and childcare to get to work than what I get in wages and tips when I get to work. And so they're saying nothing is better than working in these jobs. That's a powerful statement. That is why you're seeing, that's why I'm really waiting for just a few weeks from now. We're going to see the states where the governors have been like, oh, let's cut off the UI so that they don't have this choice and they have to go back to work. I'm saying, let's see it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Guarantee you that they're going to cut off that unemployment insurance, or they already have. And we're still going to see massive shortages. We're not calling them worker shortages. We're calling them wage shortages.
Right.
Because this is not workers staying home with UI. This is workers saying, honestly, I'm done. And they're moving on to something else. So we've heard workers now working at call centers or Uber and Lyft, which is not great jobs either. But that's what I'm saying. They're saying anything or nothing is better than working in restaurants.
No, so let me go back to you. You talked about the Republican governors who were stripping unemployment away. And I've been saying it's a dumb thing for them to do. It's a political ploy. It's to feed this narrative that we working people are all lazy. And
That's
we're
right.
we're all grifters, but hey, tax cuts for millionaires and corporations, those are good things.
That's right.
So it's your argument then that you don't think this is going to matter much in curing what they see as the problem of not forcing desperate people back into crummy jobs.
Well, when 2/3 of restaurant workers, which is literally one of the biggest workforces in America, almost 14 million workers prior to the pandemic, when 2/3 of 14 million workers couldn't get unemployment insurance because they were told their wages were too low to access benefits, then cutting off their unemployment insurance is going to do nothing. They never got it to begin with. They left the industry. They're not at home collecting UI. They've moved on. They're working at Uber, Lyft. They're working at call centers. They're working at grocery stores. They have left. And so the only thing that these workers are saying, we just did a survey of 3,000 workers. 53% that are left say they're leaving the industry. 76% say the top reason they're leaving is low wages and tips. 78%, nearly 8 in 10, say the only thing that would make them stay in a restaurant or come back is a full livable wage with tips on top.
So what is a full livable wage then? What's that number? What does that number look like? Because I hear my my anti-minimum wage friends. I hear my my Republican listeners going, well, then a hamburger's going to cost me $27.50 if I got to pay that kid, that teenager. If I got to pay that person $30 an hour, I don't even make that. What's the argument?
The median age in the restaurant industry is 36. These are not teenagers. They are, over a third of them are parents with children. They are adults. They take great pride in their work. They're not just flipping burgers, quote unquote. They provide us with customer service. They anticipate our needs. They have been what makes the restaurant industry in the United States so popular. We eat out more than any other country on earth, and we are going to go back to doing that after the pandemic. I can guarantee it, because the restaurant industry has been resilient through everything in the United States. We eat out. That's what we do as Americans. And the reason we eat out is that we love the service that we get from the people who serve us, not because we're trying to go get served by robots, but because we want that experience of being served in a restaurant, of somebody anticipating our needs and talking to them about wine and different types of steak and food, and having that experience of being served in a restaurant. We are itching as a country to go back to that. But we can't go back to that unless we can ensure that the people who provide us with that service are valued for that work, which in other countries is skilled professional work. And so the minimum they're saying they need to come back and work in the industry and make sure we can have Sunday brunch and make sure we can have Friday date night is a $15 minimum wage with tips on top. And that is what workers get in California. People get one fair wage in Oregon and Washington, Nevada, Minnesota, Montana, and Alaska. And I can tell you, because I live here in California, burgers are not $24 an hour. They are not actually higher in the Applebee's and IHOPs and Chili's and Denny's than they are in Pennsylvania. They are exactly the same. Why? Because these companies don't find that they have to dramatically raise prices when they raise wages. What they find, and actually the CFO of Denny's admitted this, what they find is that customer spending in restaurants goes way up. There was a Newsweek expose just a few weeks ago. Denny's was caught red-handed because in February, they and the National Restaurant Association were telling Congress, we can't raise the wage, especially for restaurant workers. It will kill restaurants. Menu prices will go way up. Exactly everything you just said. And in that same moment, the CFO of Denny's was telling shareholders, not only did 15 not hurt the business in California, it resulted in California, quote unquote, outperforming the system. Guest receipts have been way higher in California Denny's than any other state in the US. As a result, Denny's has grown faster in California than any other state in the US. So what happens when you raise the wage for the largest workforce in America? They go out and they spend it. They go out and they eat out. They tip. And as a result, menu prices don't have to skyrocket because restaurants are experiencing this huge boost in revenue. And that is what has happened in the states that have raised the wage.
No, and again, I've been saying this for a long time. You give people disposable income, they are going to spend it. And I think we've learned this over the last 3 stimulus packages that have come, that have saved our economy from collapse. You give folks at the bottom a little disposable income, they're going to use it in ways that are going to help their family. Pay rent, pay bills, put food on the table, do the things that need to be done. This isn't rocket science.
No. It's so obvious, and it's happened in every state where the wage has gone up. Far from the industry tanking, the industry has grown in the states where the wages are higher. Yeah. They're just lying, Rick. Denny's knows this. IHOP knows this because they are in California and Washington and Oregon. They know this from their own experiences, and they've admitted it to their shareholders. They are lying. They're lying to the people in the other states. They are lying to small business restaurant owners who they've terrified into thinking it can't work. And they're especially lying to Congress. when they say it can't be done.
Yeah, I got to tell you, no matter what, if I were a restaurant worker in this moment, I don't care how much you paid me. There's no way I'm going back, at least not for the next year, because, I've been paying attention to all of these stories as things are opening up. We're horrible. We people are really bad to each other. You see these videos coming off of airline flights. You see them at restaurants. We evidently we've forgotten how to interact with each other. So while we go back to the learning process of how to be decent to each other, I would be staying the hell out of it.
Yeah. And that's what workers are saying too, because they're saying not only are the wages and tips so much lower, they have never experienced this level of hostility. So many workers have said, I've been working in the industry for decades. I have never experienced this level of hostility from customers. And that's only going to get worse because restaurants right now are opening totally understaffed. And guess what that's going to result in? Customers are not going to be happy. They're not going to get their food as quickly. They're not going to get their drinks as quickly. Their servers can't be as attentive because there's much fewer of them. That results in more hostility and more workers saying, you know what, I'm done with this. You don't pay me enough to put up with this. So that's why I keep saying we have two choices. We can raise the wage or shrink the industry because this cycle of workers walking off the job is just going to get worse and worse and worse unless we pay these workers.
No, because you're right about people wanting to go back. My wife and I, one of the things we enjoy doing is going out to breakfast together in the morning when I get home from work. And we've been dying for that to happen, but we're waiting until the craziness dies down a little bit. So last question I've got for you, about 45 seconds. Now, how do we move this forward? What's the marching order? What do we want people to do?
We need everybody, workers, employers, consumers, listeners, everybody to tell Congress we have to pass the Raise the Wage Act. The Raise the Wage Act in Congress would raise the wage to 15 and end the minimum wage for tipped workers. That is the only way to tell millions of workers come back. This industry is still worth working in.
Yeah, but we've still got Kelly Simino who did the little dips, whatever that dance she did was, and Joe Manchin who thinks it should be $11 an hour. Again, this is why elections matter. This is one of those things.
Yep. But people can outvoice the Restaurant Association. People can push Sinema and Manchin. We can get this done. We just need everybody to speak up.
There you go. Saru, I appreciate you taking time for us. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Take care.
Good stuff. Saru Jayaraman, president of One Fair Wage. Make sure you check out their website, onefairwage.com. Quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.